Welcome to the Lindsay and Tony podcast, where we talk about spirituality, business, and life experiences.
In this podcast, we're bringing our private conversations to you.
We believe that it's through discussion, action, and reflection that true change occurs.
Hi everybody, welcome to episode 84, 3 ways to make sure you take action towards your goals. In this episode, we talk about different strategies that you could apply into your life to ensure that you have the inspiration and energy to carry you through the ups and downs of chasing after your dreams. I hope everybody enjoys the show.
Hi guys, welcome back. We're so excited that you're here. Today's episode is all about 3 ways to take action towards your goal. And I feel like action takes place after you set an intention or a goal because you know the direction that you're going in, right?
Exactly, and we're not going to talk about what we're laughing about right now. But the way I look at it is a goal is a space to come from. It's not really a space to get to, because when you shift your focus and you focus on a new reality, to me, your whole world shifts, and then you start to act from that space.
Oh, that's a good one. That's so true. And there's an energy that takes place around you, and the universe conspires to make it happen. Of course, you can't sit on your couch and wait for your goal to be completed just by sitting on your couch, but there's more to it, and there's more ways you can get there.
Absolutely, and that's exactly why we made this podcast episode, is to give you practical steps to get there, and then also just to plug in my accountability checklist, which, if you're on social media right now, type SIN in the comments, and I will send the accountability checklist to you, which is 6 actionable steps that you could apply every day in your life to create exponential results. So we're going to give you a couple of things in this podcast as well. If you're listening on through podcasts, through Podbean or iTunes, you could check the description, and the link for the accountability checklist will be in the description. Right.
And it's always, if you ever want to get to Tony's stuff, go to TonyCmitchell.com, and this checklist will be on his website too. So.
All right. So let's talk about the steps to actually make the goal happen, to actually get to the goal. So number one is really setting up accountability partners. And I think that's a big thing. Having a partner, having a group of people around you that know your focus, know your goal, and they're not going to, try to butter you up and make you feel good even if you didn't hit your goal. They're there to hold you accountable. That's really important. Absolutely. And an example that comes to mind is Lindsay, from one of my accountability partners. And I think that your relationship with your wife or husband that could be one of your biggest accountability partners there, because they know your dreams. If you guys share them with each other, they know your deepest desires. I could think of other accountability partners in my life, like my morning routine partners, to where they help me wake up early in the morning, even if I don't feel like it. So a lot of days, I wouldn't go work out right away at 5 a.m. Compared to now, I have accountability buddies that are going to meet me, and they're going to be waiting there for me. I know this when I wake up, so then I must go too.
Exactly. And I'm thinking about a time when the first or second year that I started to do readings, probably the second year, closer to that, of paid readings. I had an intention call group. So there was a group of us. Do you remember me getting on the intention call? And we would get on and we would answer the same questions, same quick questions that we would check in with each other. And we'd have to be accountable for those questions. So think of ways that you can do this. You can do it on calls. You could do it in person. You could do it in your own house if your partner knows your goals. Now, I want to bring something up, because this is something that comes up with my students. There are some people that are in relationships with people that are very supportive of their spiritual business or their business. And then other people, they don't really totally know about the business. They don't get it. They're not feeling pulled into that, and they kind of have separate business lives. And that's okay too, as long as you can be open and honest about what you're experiencing and having a safe place to talk to someone about it.
Absolutely. And so you're being all the way authentic to where you're expressing where you're wanting to go. Because even if you're not in business together, I think it's healthy for couples and for anybody who's building a relationship to share their dreams, share their deepest desires, their deepest fears. And just by doing that alone, it's like you're putting that out there. I know when I tell Lindsay certain things, some things I've told her over the years I didn't do. Other things I did, and I felt really good when I did do the things I told you I was going to do, whether it was graduate college or start a business or teach or even the smaller things too. And I paid attention to the differences between the two. And I'm highly motivated if I say something out loud to Lindsay now to actually like, crap, I have to go make this happen now.
I know.
And I think that's a power behind accountability.
No, that is true, because once you say it out loud and you tell someone else, it does put that accountability out there because you're actually voicing it. And sometimes even looking in the mirror and telling yourself something is a start.
Yeah, so think about every area of your life with this, and especially think about the areas you struggle in. Set up masterminds or whatever you want to call these, accountability, where you have another person that's doing it with you, and to where they can hold you accountable, whether it's your relationships, your career, your business. What are some other areas they could create accountability groups around? Maybe at their job, at their specific job, or their business.
Right, and I feel like when it comes to mediumship, this is not talked about a lot, but really including movement in your daily activity, some sort of form of exercise or movement is a big thing. So checking in with some other people, even if you're doing readings, you can check in about readings, but you can also say, hey, did you take a walk today? How are you feeling?
Absolutely, and that's the thing. If exercise is something you struggle with, and a lot of people, they struggle with this. Like, to me, it comes easy. To a lot of people, that's one area that it comes easy to me. Other areas I struggle. A lot of people with exercise, it's a struggle for them. So for sure, in mediumship or whatever career you're in or business, if you're not already exercising on a consistent basis 3 or 4 more days a week, I definitely would team up with somebody.
Right. And I actually, this is my accountability partner sometimes. It's an object.
Definitely.
Because this was the start of me really focusing in on walking, the Fitbit. Because I could see it visually. But really, we work sort of on a mastermind because a friend of mine invited me to a small group of people that had a Fitbits too. So you can see how many steps you have for that day. But it motivates me really to focus in on a goal and then say, okay, I'm going to get 10,000 steps today. That's my goal for me. Like, that's more of a drive for me than going against anyone else. You know, even though we were in the group, it's exciting to be in that energy, and you get motivated when other people are working out too, but really having that intention in your head. So that's another form of it.
Absolutely. So if it's a device like Lindsay's watch that she's wearing that could hold you accountable, or whether it's a person, or whether it's you writing down things, get creative with this and figure out what works best for you. So let's go to number 2. And number 2, so this is all how to make sure that you take the action steps to make the goal happen. Number 2 is so valuable in this because it's where you get your inspiration from. It's where it's what I call pure energy, and it's when you understand your deepest why. And I think that we could always understand it even more deeper on every single day that we reflect and self-discover and all of that.
Yeah.
But that's where, when you understand why you're doing everything that you're doing in your life, you're going to have all of the unlimited amounts of energy pour out of you to actually do that thing.
It's true. When you start to lose steam, or you start to lose motivation, or you have a bad day when it comes to any kind of business thing, it could be one of those days where you have a reading that if you're a medium or a psychic, you don't feel like, oh, that reading I could have done better, or I had a horrible day today. It's easy to stop wanting to do what you're doing, what your passion is. But if you remember your why, that's the thing that's going to keep things running for you. And I feel like that's a huge thing.
It's a huge thing, is what you just said. If you're an entrepreneur, or even if you have a career and you just want to keep growing, it's an up and down battle sometimes, especially emotionally. And it's some days you're not going to feel like working. Some days you're not going to feel like going to give your coaching or reading or teaching or whatever you do. And I think the days that you feel the darkest, the days you feel the lowest, if you already did the work previously to understand your core why, which we're going to give you a little strategy here, so you can apply it immediately into your life, then on those rough days you're going to be able to dig deep and get that extra energy that you need to take action. That's true. Because you will have those tough days.
You will, and people that you communicate with, if they're asking you about different things connected to your business, that energy when you're speaking from that space of your love and your passion is going to come out because you know your why. That's and you believe your why. And I feel like that's a huge thing that comes through. It exudes out of you whether you want it to or not. It's going to happen. So if you don't believe in your why, or you're unclear of why you're doing what you're doing, that's going to come off. And that energy is going to be put out into the atmosphere, and you're going to wonder, why don't I have enough clients? It's because you have to know your why. And I feel like you do a good job of really going into that too.
Right, and that's a great point. So you can see how understanding your core why like covers all areas. Sales, how many sales you get, the clarity in your business of what you're actually doing, and if you even, for you to get to the point to where you know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
And the momentum.
I feel like momentum and everything. So this is huge. So here's a little strategy that you could use right away. And if you have a piece of paper and pen, write this question down. So the question is, and we'll go ahead and call this strategy the 7 levels why strategy, which I actually learned from Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi. And they told us to share it with the world. It's so powerful. I did this exercise. So the first thing you do is answer the question, why do you want to be successful? And don't filter anything, write down the first thing that comes to mind. Why do you want to be successful? If you have to pause and reflect, go ahead and press pause right now and write that down. Write down your answer, the first thing that comes to mind. Doesn't matter what it is, the first thing.
And if you're in your car listening on audio, say it out loud.
Yeah, say it out loud. And then you could go, I would for sure go back and write this down. Because this is information that should be written down. Why do you want to be successful? Write down the first thing that comes to mind. Then after that, the next thing you write down is, this is important for me because, or actually, let me double check that. Give me a second here. Oh, why is it important for you to blank? And in the blank spot, fill in your answer from the first question. So for example, if your first answer was, why do I want to be successful? Well, I want to be able to provide for my family the resources and money to support them. The second question would be, why is it important for you to provide money and resources to provide for your family? Pause. Answer that question. So each time you do this, it's going to be peeling back a layer and a layer. Go ahead and write and do this 6 more times with the why is it important for you to. And repeat the same process that we just did. And each time you do it, you're going to peel back a layer, and you're going to realize even more so why you're doing what you're doing. Not only at the word level to where you see it written down on your piece of paper, but it's going to be an energetic feeling that you feel inside.
This is worth doing. You think that you know the answer, and by the end of it, you're like, wow, that was my answer. And there's something that lifts from your spirit when you write it down.
It's valuable.
So it's worth taking the time to do this. So if you are listening to it, definitely make sure you take out a notebook when you're in a good space to really go deeper. And you might think, oh, at the 5th one, I don't know if I can write anymore, but you can. So just keep on sticking with it.
That's the thing about it. Each time you do this, you're going to dig a little deeper inside yourself to figure out what the truthful answer is. It's
right.
Like it's pulling more of you out of yourself.
Yeah, and I felt like when I was first doing the exercise, I'm like, am I even doing this right? So if you are someone that can get in your head about that, don't get in your head too much. Just answer the question, let it flow through you, and you'll get closer to the very end.
Because that's the thing. This is a process that you're going to want to repeat for the rest of your life. This isn't a one-time thing. So don't be, like Lindsay said, don't be attached to your answers right now. Just allow yourself to go within each layer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, so number 3 is, on 3 ways to make sure you take action towards your goal. So you actually act towards that vision that you're seeing instead of just talking about it and telling people about it and seeing it and then creating frustration in your life. This is an actual step to actually make you take action steps, to motivate you to take action steps. So number 3 is to write down your thoughts.
That's a huge one. So I feel like this is something that I always put dates next to. If something comes up, I will write it down and put the date. I actually was cleaning through my closet the other day, and you should see how many journals I have in there. Because I have a habit of just scribbling things in journals, sometimes napkins, whatever it may be, I write it down. And I think that's important because there are ideas that will come and flow through you in the middle of the night. Sometimes there's an idea that you'll wake up to, or song lyrics that you'll wake up to. There's been times where I've had moments where I had to ask a question before I went to sleep and wait for the answers to come in the morning, and it works. But it's really getting that clarity, and when you can actually write it down, that's when amazing things take place, because it's in written form and you're expressing yourself. The energy is moved out of you instead of in your brain. Because I find when you're in your head a lot and it's not actually written out, it's overthinking of the same thoughts over and over again, and it goes nowhere, and it just becomes overwhelming.
Yes, and it's like a funnel. The way that you could look at it is look at it like a little funnel that goes down. For the people that could see the video, you could see my hands going, but think of a funnel. At the top of the funnel, you have your ultimate vision of where you're going. And that's a whole nother subject on, are you following your egotistic vision or your ultimate vision? Meaning, like, are you allowing spirit to come in and really pull you towards where you're supposed to be going? That's a whole nother episode there. But where this is you have your vision, it filters down, and write down your vision. So the point of this is write down all your thoughts, write down your vision, create a vision board, make a song out of it, get your vision out creatively. If you're an artist, paint it, whatever you got to do, get that vision out at the top of the funnel, and then as you work your way down the funnel, you want to create it into a monthly plan, and then a daily plan, even an hourly plan if that works for you. Like for me, maybe not. Some days I'll do hourly, some days I won't. But it breaks down to where you have practical next steps that you can do. So here's an example that you could do with that is, before you go to sleep at night, part of your nightly routine could be to write down the next 3 to 5 steps that you must do the next day. That way you're not thinking about it in your head.
And that's in your checklist. That's one of the valuable things in there too,
yes.
Which is important. Yeah, because you can be in your head.
You can. And that's, so my accountability checklist, it's such a great thing because of the fact that you could write down all of this stuff. Like, it's organized to where it gives you 6 actionable steps where you could write everything down.
Yeah, you just print it out.
Once again, download, if you're on social media, type send in the comments and we'll get that checklist to you. I'll inbox it back to you. If you're you're listening through Podbean or iTunes, Apple, then it will be in the description. So once again, before you go to sleep at night, write down the next 3 to 5 steps that you must take the next day. Yeah,
and I think that when you do these things, don't just put it away in a drawer. Actually look at it the next day and say, did I do this? Did I check in? And I think that we do a good job at our meetings. We've talked about this in so many different episodes. On Fridays, we have meetings together. And that's our accountability time. Yes. And we write it down and we have to check in. Did we do what we said we were going to do the last week? And if we didn't, we move it on to the next week if we didn't get to it. We don't shame ourselves and think, oh my gosh, I didn't get that done. Now I need to feel bad because I didn't do it.
But you just put it on the next week.
You put it on the next week, and that's the point of this.
At one point I did that about 6 meetings in a row. The same thing kept popping up, and then eventually
it came out.
I finished it.
But it makes you do it when you keep on writing it over. You don't just save the paper from before. You write it again to imprint it again, like you have to do it.
Right, and that thing that I'm talking about, it frustrated me. As I kept seeing it pop up, I did get frustrated. Of course, don't shame yourself and go in that little cycle there, but it's okay to feel frustrated. That just shows that you care about where you're going, and then you just take action. Eventually, that frustration led me to actually, all right, let me check this off the list, to where if I didn't have it on the list, I didn't write it down, and we didn't do our accountability meetings every Friday, I would have done a lot of the things, but I'm sure there'd be a huge pile that I would not have done.
Exactly.
This will absolutely accelerate your success more than anything.
I think the big message of this whole entire video podcast episode is get all of the things that are in your brain that are overwhelming you, taking up space, and write it down and put it on paper. And by doing that, actions will be taken. There's little mini things you can do in between that, but really the first step is to get it out of your mind and onto paper.
Right.
And I highly suggest getting a notebook, paper, and a pen or a pencil, whatever you want to do, whatever makes you feel better. But I don't suggest typing it up on the computer. I actually highly suggest printing out something like the checklist or getting a notebook. That's my suggestion, because I do feel like there's an energy behind the computer that's a little bit different than getting a notebook and, a pen and writing it out. I feel like when I do automatic writing, when I'm channeling information that's flowing through me, I like to write it out. You can still type it, but it is a different kind of energy when you're away from technology, taking this notebook outside, going in a good environment that makes you feel like you're flowing with creativity.
Right, and just go with that. There's actually scientific proof with when you write things down, you're connecting both sides of the brain.
Yes.
So you're using your imagination, you're using writing,
mm-hmm.
and obviously the more clear you are in your brain and your mind, better everything else is.
Everything's focused.
Yeah.
So is that everything that we have to cover today? I know there's so much more that can come up, but we'll do lots of episodes that connect around accountability, I'm sure, throughout the next couple of months.
Because it's one of the biggest things into actually taking action is holding yourself accountable and then setting up an environment and a structure throughout your week that actually will cause you to be accountable.
Yes. So this is what I want you to do. I'm asking this because I feel like asking like this is going to be a little bit different than just listening to the outro, because you're used to hearing our outro. So many people have been messaging us saying how much the podcast has impacted their life. Certain episodes have helped them. They listen in the car or they watch the videos when they get home, whatever it may be. They've had results just by doing the action steps or just listening. They've had aha moments. The biggest gift that you can give us, and we love hearing those messages and reading them, is to go on iTunes and write a review. And there's a reason for that. The higher ranking in iTunes, the more people are going to see this and the more people are going to be impacted and the more people that are going to be helped. And that's what we want. That's our goal, is to express ourselves, share our experiences, so that hopefully at least one thing in the episode will actually help someone else's life. So if you go to iTunes, we're on there, the Lindsay and Tony podcast, and just write a review. And the other thing is we're on YouTube too. So some of you watch this video on Facebook, but you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Lindsay and Tony podcast. Of course, each of us have our own YouTube channel outside of this podcast, but you can find us on there too, Lindsay Marino and Tony Mitchell. But we're so thankful for you, and I can't believe we're already at this episode. Like, we are moving along through all the episodes. Mm-hmm. So a lot of time and energy, but a lot of passion that goes into this work, and we're grateful for all of you listeners and watchers too.
Definitely.
So thank you guys, and we can't wait to see you next episode. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. If you liked it, leave a 5-star review on iTunes, and remember, subscribe to our YouTube channel too.
If you can think of anyone else that would love this episode, share it with them right now on social media or email. And remember, getting results is a process of learning, applying, and reflecting. Stay consistent and continue to grow every day.